We're having another innovative chat Monday, hoping to, it'll be a good one. We have a really, really talented educator coming in. I've worked with her for years. Um, and yeah, it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. Jackson is the one who taught me STEM. Basically, I was under her little wing, her little chickadee. She's
Yes.
super innovative, super smart. I had to bring her on. And so today we want to talk about like the future of education. Like we've everyone had their like pedagogy and their thoughts before this pandemic hit. But what did you think that where do you think like education was going before this pandemic even hit? Was it a downward spiral? Was it going uphill? Was
I think it was a bit of a roller coaster, honestly. Depending on, your campus, you may have been, in a forward movement as far as innovative ideas, is, integrating various programs and things of that nature. However, I think a lot of times when we think about innovation, the first thing we think about is technology.
right.
And it's technology when the computer first came out and iPads and, tablets and things that could fit in your pocket. I think that was very innovative. But now that access is, it's not equal across the board, but I do
Right.
think more students have access to technology way earlier than what we did. You still have to find ways to make it innovative, and just putting a laptop or a tablet in a child's hand like, hey, you're going to do this assignment on here, that's not innovation.
It
When
is not.
that document can talk back to the kid,
Right.
that's a level of innovation. So I think
Right.
depending on, schools, we've had teachers, unfortunately, they're like, we're not going to use the laptops, or the kids don't use them anyway, and literally 60 days later, and that's the only option you have.
Well, you know what? Before this whole pandemic happened, I posted like an article in this teacher group or whatever, and saying there's school districts that are going back to hey Keith, hey
I know. Hey,
Barnes,
Mr. Barnes.
um, that we're saying that they don't even want to do technology anymore. They want to go back to the textbooks. So it was crazy when I seen it. I was like, what? Danny said people need real training, which is true. Like
Yes,
I was
they do.
in Abu Dhabi, like using what were you using? I just taught them. I did a training on Class Dojo. So when I first got there,
You were a
um,
superstar, huh?
it wasn't. No, I actually wasn't because I was at an all boys school. Those boys, I was the first woman on their campus ever, and I was the only
Wow.
one. It was me and another lady. We were the only two women on the campus the first time ever, and I literally like the first semester, I lost my voice every week because I had no clue how to manage. Like it was just chaotic. But the second semester I came back, I said, Taylor, you have tools that you can bring to the table. Like what technology can you
No.
use? So what I'm noticing is that like globally speaking, access is really hard. So we as a whole school, they had one computer lab. One, and not all of the computers were necessarily working, but
They're
even
working.
right, but then how do you have one computer lab for an entire school, but you want everybody to use technology like 2 times a week? Like how to scheduling alone, right, is crazy.
Yeah.
And just trying to give proper training to teachers, you have to have the open mindedness, and then it has to be a longevity. Like it needs to be continuous training, right?
Yeah.
It can't be, oh, we just hopped in for this Tuesday. I hope you got it.
I got it. Yeah.
You know?
We'll be back
Right,
later.
right. I
Like, we're
feel
not going to follow up to see if you actually got it, if
no
you're
follow
implementing
up.
it. Yeah. And
Yeah,
the other part is when you're doing the training, your entire team needs to be in this training.
Yes.
Meaning not just the teachers and the trainer, but the teachers, your instructional specialists, your teacher specialists, your entire admin team, including said principal and whoever, you know, may be supervising them. So when they go in the classroom, they have an idea of what they may be looking for, and they also have the ability to help a student, you know, while they're observing the teacher or coaching the teacher.
Trainings on the being flexible on and off the technology, and like Danny even said, like having a true buy-in. I find that schools will buy into something for the first year, and if it doesn't work,
and then after that,
it's done. And I'm like, you need at least 3 years.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, and that was the one thing that you and I learned, as well as Mr. Bournes and everyone that was there, is at year 3 was when you really start to see the whole ship start to change and light bulbs start going off. And it's like, but I've been saying this for like 3 years, and you just, I mean, that is just where we are as human beings, as people. And I'm going to say it depends on your level of invitation to change.
Right.
If you're one that is ready for a change, you're ready for something new, then you get it right then and there. If you're, you know, more hesitant, you need to think about it. You need to, you know, well, hold my hand first, then that might be a year 2. And then the other ones that are kicking and screaming, that swore that what you were doing was just, you know, the devil himself.
Right.
They kind of come in year 3. However, there's a 4th level, which every educator from March till now has seen them. Mr. Bournes has seen them, where it's like, I'm not going to learn how to use this or whatever about this technology. I don't care who told me or how many times said person told me. Now you're forced to change. You're forced to embrace it.
The environment has changed. You can't, because by you being stagnant, now you're actually the one ruffling the feathers because everyone's looking at you. When this pandemic, what do you think? How does this pandemic shape education now with all trying to be creative and projects and all that things?
It goes back to our categories of change, where, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just make sure. I'm seeing things like pop up on the screen. But you have, you know, I would say what we did, or what my daughter's school did, was, you know, they sent out a survey, our district did, like, do you have technology? Do you have internet? You know, yes, no, whatever, can you come to get it? You know, it's one, I always say I'm a firm believer, and you all, you know, I am the queen of finding a solution. So I'm going to do everything possible to eliminate why you can't do X, Y, and Z. And once I have done that, then we look at, okay, you're in a completely different country, ma'am. I just need you to get back home safely. Like, just, you know,
don't even worry about it.
Like, not at all. Like, if you have access to a video and or, you know, to technology, and you need to pass the time, you need something to distract you, here, do this video. But I mean, those are very, I mean, I can't even say they're extenuating circumstances, because it's a common, unfortunately, a very common reality. And we've had students here that took their laptops and sat outside of McDonald's because they don't have internet access at home. We had companies that donated internet access, and as of today, it's been shut off because school is out.
Right.
And so people think that, yes, this pandemic happened. I think if it had been a gradual, like a rollout type of program, it wouldn't have been so traumatic. Right. However, because it was so sudden, you have to have grace.
Yeah.
You have to have patience.
Yeah.
And then you also have to, I feel like you have to provide a level of tough love.
Yeah.
Because even in the midst of all of this, we are still expected to get our jobs done. Now, mind you, we've been given a level of grace because everybody is
Yeah.
dealing with it.
Yeah.
It's not just my house or your house.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to education, you provide an outlet like, hey, if you can watch this video while you're sitting there, if you get a chance, great. If you can write me a couple of sentences about how do you feel today? What did you
Right.
do that made you feel
Right.
good today? Or what did you learn today? That is still learning.
Yeah.
It may not
Yeah.
be specifically science based or whatnot, but it is still a level of learning that as educators, and I really think worldwide, people are having to learn to work with grace, to
Mhm.
teach with grace, to be a
Mhm.
student with grace.
Mhm.
And for some people, like my little person who loves this flexibility of
Yeah.
not having to be on such a schedule, and it's like, well, mommy, I have till Thursday to get it done, but that doesn't mean we need to wait till Thursday to get it done.
Right. Right. But that's
Like,
you mentioned such a topic, and that's why I kind of wanted to segue into that, like the kind of the pros of this digital age. I've had a couple of students flourish with the flex. They're like,
mm-hmm.
listen, okay, this is what it is. Or I have a few students. If I just give them the PowerPoint, they really don't even need to see me or talk to me. I give you the PowerPoint, they can go through it at their
Yep.
own pace. They know the due date, and it's a done deal. And but I think those are the kids that have been really wanting independence, and this provided them an opportunity for that. And then but then on the coordinator side of it, there have been a few teachers who have actually stepped up with, they're just like, okay, this is new. So when I provide opportunities or something different, like, hey, they jump at it. They're just like, look, anything, because I have no clue. I'm floundering, but if you're offering me some sort of a life raft, I'm at least open to taking it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I've only had a couple of teachers do it, but it's a positive. Where do you think after this whole digital learning thing, where are we going? At this point, I have no clue where the future of education. It can go up, it can go, because I seen some articles where some districts are saying they shut down, and they said we're not coming back in August. Um, we're just gonna do digital learning straight up. Like, it seemed like it's cost effective. So now I'm like, oh Lord, education always
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
cut. So what is this?
Yeah.
Hey, Curtin, what is this, these budget cuts, you know what I mean, like the future of education. Yeah, we did this digital learning, and a lot of teachers came out and have been amazing with it, but then how do we also say, wait, don't cut us out, don't don't shut us down, don't decrease budget because we were successful at
Yeah.
this.
I, I think we have to be very careful with going straight digital because there's a social piece of school that is very important to a young person's growth.
Yes.
I mean, think about from, kindergarten to fifth grade, you think the world is just full of roses and everybody loves you, everybody wants to be your friend, and then
Right.
like third grade hits and you don't understand why somebody doesn't want to be your friend, and you're having to figure things out on a social I guess within a social environment.
Yeah.
And it's not just the classroom piece. It's the social aspect of school.
Right.
And where everybody doesn't go to a daycare, everybody doesn't have a sibling. Like if it wasn't for school, my little person, like sharing, like who does that? She's an only child. And
Same
I'm just
here.
like, I shared the yes. I grew up with siblings, so no, I would probably be fine with, staying at home and being homeschooled.
Right.
But I feel like for an only child, that social piece is not something that they're just gonna get naturally at
Right.
home. And so even with playing with friends and things of that nature down the street, it's still different when you're in a classroom with someone, you're learning with someone, you're having to develop patience for people that don't read as fast as you, or maybe you don't get math but they do, and you have to learn how to build a level of thick skin.
Yeah.
And realize that everybody doesn't agree with you, and there's nothing wrong with that. You have to try and see it from their perspective,
Right.
and also move forward with it.
Right.
Like there's so many social elements that are a part of the educational process from kindergarten to high school. And the other really cool part about it is you're all going through the same thing.
Right.
So you're not by yourself. You know, I can remember teaching 7th grade and I'm like, dude, on Monday y'all love me, Tuesday you like me, by Wednesday you don't like me, Thursday you hate my guts, and then Friday you crying in my arms, and we start this whole cycle all over again.
Right.
And I just say, you know, it's just the hormones, baby. Like, you know,
Middle school,
and
I'm telling you. Woo!
yeah. And so I just think that we have to be very careful with saying that we're just going to go 100% digital. And the other side to that is for a district like mine, where we're servicing 250,000 students, and that's just the students. It's looking at devices for everyone.
Yep.
It's looking at internet access for everyone.
Yep.
And then what are you going to do with your parents? You know, everybody can't afford to stay home and work. Everybody's
and
job.
Daycare is expensive, okay?
Amen. Ooh, amen. Amen. And so then that's why I say you have to be careful, because unless every child in your district has an educator for a parent, staying at home is not going to be everyone's option. And you know, I'm pretty sure educators are not going to be like, yeah, just, you know, send Zoe on over to my house. And I'm not.
So Barnes is saying, he was like, would you consider a school week of 4 days in the class and 1 day remote learning, or like 3 full weeks of in class and then a week of remote learning? I think there is a possibility for it to be blended, especially if you have something like that. Now, I would say my district, but the district that I'm currently stuck in right now, because I am trapped in the U.S. But Dallas, what I've been hearing is that they're looking at like A-week, B-weeks, or something of that nature, and kind of rotating out and going to like a 4-day week. I think there has to be a meet in the middle. You can't just roll out and say, hey, digital learning, because just like you said, the social skills, but also the cultural sensitivity. Like, we've seen how social media trolls, people are very strongly worded and confident when they're not looking people directly in the eye.
Oh, amen.
That they would never say, right? And then the exposure, right? Now because I'm international, the kids are exposed to a lot of different cultures. However, when you're looking at national students, like the students in the US, or students that are solely in China or solely in the UAE or solely in Africa, whatever, and they don't leave, like, the whole exposure to different things and different things that aren't like you, that don't look like you, that don't talk like you, that don't do so. But at the same time, if they came in with, you do have an opportunity for global learning though with the online thing. However, time zones is a killer. Okay, speaking of experience, okay, I struggle because around 10 o'clock is when my kids are getting up, and all of a sudden I got to teach a lesson trying to stay awake. But I think there's a big opportunity for digital learning, those digital the global learning and collaborations, and that strong front. But we have to look at the student as a whole.
As far as, you know, like the hybrid that you're talking about, like our district was talking about the same thing. And I think an option of digital learning provides those learners that are ready to go ahead and move ahead. It allows the teacher to go ahead and push them. Is that a lot of times, you know, we talk about differentiation, but I can remember having AP students and SPED students all in the same class with 30 kids. Like, how am I supposed to differentiate for that? And my AP kids, bless their hearts, I was like, here, this is the goal, figure it out. And they would get on it. They would go. I didn't have to, you know, stand there with them. But I think if you're able to split it to where, okay, if you need one-on-one, or your child needs that social aspect of school, then send those 10 kids with that one teacher.
Right.
And then the other, you know, 20 kids or whatnot, either rotate them in or provide them the option to learn at home. But once again, that social piece is very important.
Looking at staffing though, I feel like that really stretches the teacher, because so for China right now, I have kids that are back in school, like they physically in school. They got their social distancing hat with their little a ruler to measure out 6 feet. Um, and trying to provide a lesson separately for them, because there's things that you can do in class that you really can't do digitally, and then also trying to take that lesson and digitize it. It is a major mental stretch, right? I remember you always said that to the kids, you were saying, oh, it's a mental workout, you got to go to the gym
You
and
do your brain push-ups, yeah.
yeah. And so it is definitely so, like we're saying like blended and all. It sounds great on paperwork, but I'm like, we also need to qualify more and hire more teachers that can handle that load, because trying to stretch a teacher like that, and then on top of that, like Barnes is saying, talking about you throw standardized testing back in there, it's
And
hard.
what I was gonna say is, I think we could move towards digital learning.
Right.
However, there are certain things that can't move with it.
Right.
And I also think the essence of education would also be reevaluated, because we
Right.
look at the hours and the days that a child spends in school and equate that to time served. We have kids that go to summer school because they were absent, not because they made straight A's.
Not
I'm
because
like, wait a minute. If the goal was for them to learn X, Y, and Z, pass their STAR test, why are you here again? Oh, because I missed too many days. But you have straight A's and B's on your report card. You passed. So it's like, what are we really telling our kids? It's just like now. I'm fortunate to have a boss that's like, hey, these are your work hours.
yeah.
If you have to go run off with the kids,
Yeah.
fine, but get your work done. And those are some of the best bosses to work for.
Yeah.
So what are we teaching our kids? That you
Yeah.
have to sit here from 8 to 4,
Right.
even though you got your work done, you still got to come to summer school because you weren't physically in the building. I mean, I think about Giovanni. You remember, just decides he's gonna show up to your classroom.
He snuck in my classroom. Oh my, because I was like, Giovanni. It was two of he snuck in my classroom. He was like, oh, I
Yeah.
need to learn some. I was like, sir,
I need to learn this so I can finish building this robot at home.
Listen,
And
I was the wrong teacher. You can't come into a first year teacher, because I should have caught it the first time, but my attendance game was low. Okay. I didn't catch it till like the second time.
yeah.
But like what you're saying there, digital learning really helps those kids, because it takes that whole attendance out of it. Like I don't have to, that structure of you need to, if you are in attendance at this particular location between this hour and this hour, you should be able to, right? And then but then that also takes the whole aspect of standardized testing, because at that point you're looking at the actual student. So I was doing a little bit of Finland. If Finland is hiring anybody out here, got connects in Finland, okay, I need to go. Listen, because
right.
Finland has taken away departmentalized education. So you don't have math class, you don't have social studies, you have a class called knowledge. And I was like, right? That's why I was like, I need to go to Finland, see what they do. So then you have that. You have Finland over there, and then you also have New Zealand. New Zealand they still do tests at the end of the year, like a standard test at the end of the year, but it's not equated with the person sitting next to you, the person in your city, the person in the country. It's only based off of the data that you did last year. It's personal. It's not even, you don't have to feel bad. This is where you are. This is where we're trying to get you. Okay. So last year you were struggling with subtraction. This year you can do multiplication, division, and fractions. You know what I mean? Regardless of how long it took you, but you're making progress, just to show progress and not necessarily show a benchmark or a hoop that you need to jump through. Right.
I think, and that last piece that you state, that is honestly where education could be going, where it should be going, where we're not trying to have these deadlines, these benchmarks, these, different assessments. Like, we keep preaching differentiation, scaffolding, but then we give everybody the same test. Cons to the whole digital realm, I think we have to decide what we want education to look like. I feel
Right.
like, personally, I feel like education should be getting students ready for the career path or their interests.
Right.
We're not like not if we get them ready for their career, then they'll be college ready. They'll
Right.
be military ready.
Right.
I think there are certain foci that we should eliminate from these different initiatives, because when I talk to different industry partners, our students are still not ready. The great state of Texas does not hire, unfortunately, really anybody in the STEM fields because our students are not ready. Texas just, I would say this past summer, just started the conversations and the planning for having STEM curriculum, having STEM TEKS, I guess you could say. And
Right.
of the 50 beautiful states, we are number 49 to go ahead and make this happen. So, I mean, but you know how things are in Texas. We are
We
our
gotta do
own,
our own thing. Lord help
yeah,
help
we
us.
just special.
And but I think that's what's interesting as far as just me looking into STEM and stuff. How STEM curriculum hasn't been standardized yet, but you can't really standardize STEM, so to
No,
speak.
I don't think so.
You can't, right? Because the way I've been, I don't know, teaching it or like educating it in these trainings is that STEM looks like your culture, whatever culture you're in, right? Final thoughts on education.
Yeah, I think that we, as educators and in the world of education, we have to practice what we are preaching to our babies. We can't tell them that, it's okay to fail and try again when we don't give ourselves room to fail and try again. We can't tell them to, you know, that there's more than one way to solve a problem and we're so fixated on one way. We can't
Right.
be stubborn in implementing different phases of technology. I mean, education, we should never be late. We should always be
We
at
should
the
be
forefront.
leading. We should be leading and not trying to catch up, which is a lot of times what we find ourselves doing. And then also comparing ourselves to other countries. We compare ourselves to the to Asian countries all the time, Singapore, China, Korea. But what you don't also look at is the emotional part of it, right? One of my Korean friends, she told me that when at a time when the final results are posted, so like in HISD, if you put a child's name in their grade, like, and exposed it, that was like a big thing. It was like illegal or
Yeah.
whatever, whatever, whatever. Here they
Yeah,
don't care.
privacy.
Yeah, they don't care. They your name and the whole school name.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
gonna
where
own
your
your
grades are
work.
made. And so she was telling me that there is a time every year where results come out and there are an increased number of suicides.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so
And that goes back to that whole notion of there's this, it's wrong to
yeah,
fail. And it's like most of our greatest inventions and discoveries have come from someone
failure,
failing.
accidents. The apple
Yeah.
fell on top of his head by accident.
What? Gravity? What?
But no, this has been an amazing conversation. Just perspective and input. I appreciate everyone who is watching or watched with us and commented.